Hi, Kat. Hi, folks. I have a lot to talk about today. 2 weeks ago, I was going to do a video. I forgot. Last week, I was going to do a video, but my computer and my phone decided not to work. So today, I had to put 3 videos into one. Okay, November 20th, last week, was Transgender Day of Remembrance. Why is it important to remember trans people? Well, because lots of them are killed every year, and lots of them kill themselves. Now, Transgender Day of Remembrance was originally started to remember the people who died via transphobic violence in the past year. That's hundreds of people. But we also need to keep in mind how many people are still with us. A 2011 survey found that 41% of respondents had tried to kill themselves. These are not the people who wanted to, who had thought about it, who wanted to die, who had a plan but never followed through, and this is also not including the people who succeeded. Easily 50% of the transgender population has a really intimate relationship with suicide. In over half the states in the US, trans people can be fired or not hired to a job because they are trans. Now, I think the fact that I need to talk about colonization, the trans population, and Ferguson all in the same day actually serves as a really good thing. Trans population as a whole faces these issues. Trans people of color, it's just sevenfold. You see a very clear picture via Ferguson of what our country thinks of Black people. Black lives, Black bodies. Kat, you did a marvelous, wonderful job of explaining everything in Ferguson. You also did a good job of pointing out some really key statistics for folks who are not aware of these things, and I super appreciate that. A lot of really intelligent videos on this topic obviously already exist. And as an anti-racist white person, I'm not going to restate all the things that people of color have already said. I'm going to put those links down there and you can look at them because these people are already saying what they need to say. That's not my job. What I can say is that it doesn't matter if you're Black, if you are Indigenous, or if you're trans, discrimination is not okay. Killing people because of the color of their skin or the way that they dress or their identity is not okay. Acting like our police force has the right to decide whose lives matter and whose don't, not okay. Michael Brown was 18 years old and he was unarmed. Trayvon Martin was 14 years old and he was unarmed. Tamir Rice was 12 years old and he was unarmed. The myriad of unarmed Black men that are killed every year by white cops is appalling. It's a whole hell of a lot. There are numbers, there are estimates, but without cop cams and without transparency in our law force and without some serious change or preferably revolution around these things, we're not going to have full answers and we're not going to have justice. These people were killed because of the color of their skin. And I'm not going to feed into this nice guy narrative because the point is not whether or not Michael Brown had stolen something or was antagonizing a cop. None of those things, none of the actions that Michael Brown took warrant killing him. If you are of the mindset that death is a fair punishment for having Black skin, for stealing something, for being poor, for not identifying with your genitals, or for any number of things, for living on the land that you've lived on for forever, and then suddenly, some white guy shows up and is like, hey, this is my land, let's kill everybody. If you think that's cool, I highly encourage you to click on the links below, to educate yourself, to really understand why so many people disagree with you. Our country has the highest prison population in the entire world. Louisiana has the highest population in the entire world. That state has more people in prison than entire countries. Overwhelming majority are people of color. It's not because we have a criminal issue, it's because our country and our corporations and our government and our capitalism are criminal, not because the people here are. In poor areas where there are tons of people of color, prison populations for 10 years out are literally determined by counting the number of children in second grade classrooms. They count the population and they determine how many rooms they need to have available for prisoners. We have a country founded on values of genocide and slavery and disenfranchisement of Black bodies and Native bodies and people of color in general. We do not have the foundation that regards people, as important. We do not have an equitable foundation as a country, as a society. We have a foundation that relies on literally killing them. Our society depends on it. I'm going to switch gears for a minute because originally my plan for today was to talk about colonization and Indigenous appropriation, and I want to do that still. It is Thanksgiving, and I am with my family, and I am thankful to be with them. In grade school, we're taught that Thanksgiving celebrates the friendship between the Pilgrims and the Native Americans. If you believe that this is true, be prepared to have Thanksgiving ruined for you. Folks, they sat down for a meal and they ate some food, and then all of the Indigenous people were massacred. And all their land was stolen. Our culture, attempted to be exterminated, and our country continues to disregard, disenfranchise, eliminate, assimilate Indigenous folks. One of the most obvious examples of this is fashion appropriation. I'm not going to go into every single example of cultural appropriation that affects the Indigenous and other communities. There are tons of resources that outline why cultural appropriation is bad and what things are appropriative, and in what situations that line is kind of gray, and what you can do to not be appropriative in your own life, but also to support communities of color and advocate against appropriation. I have some important key points for you. There are tons of different Indigenous communities whose land we have stolen and are on. There isn't in Native American culture. I see things all the time, quotes on Facebook, or inspirational, oh my god. In Native American culture, it's believed that blah, 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 blah. Well, no. Maybe there is an Indigenous culture that believes that specific thing. Because there is not one Indigenous culture, that means that there's not one Indigenous language, there's not one type of Indigenous clothing or food or beliefs. And to say, Native Americans think this, Native Americans dress like this, Native Americans do these things, that's racist. Because you're summing up a bunch of people and you are pushing them all together and saying, you're all the same, what can I take from you? What can I enjoy from your culture? Because it doesn't really matter what your life is. It doesn't really matter what you think or what you want. What I want to know is what of it is pretty? What of it is inspirational that I can enjoy? That's appropriation. Indigenous people still exist. We're still on their land. And despite the fact that you didn't forcibly go and say, this is my land, I'm taking it now, there is still an issue of historical genocide. I have one main pointer for you if you are ready to be non-appropriative, to unlearn all the things that you are taught your entire life. Well, 1, educate yourself. 2, don't be. And 3, if you think that something could be appropriative but you're not sure, find out. Look it up. Ask somebody. Do not use your one Black friend or Indigenous friend as your go-to person about all things Black or Indigenous. Look at videos on YouTube, look at articles, look at blog posts. There are resources out there. If you think that something might be culturally significant to somebody else, chances are it isn't for you. Cultures are not for you to take and enjoy. I don't know that I did a great job of talking about everything. If I forgot something, please leave it in the comments below. If I didn't explain something enough, please tell me. I will explain it more. If I said something wrong or offensive, please correct me. I can't do this alone. You can't do this alone. The communities that are being disrupted and targeted and destroyed cannot do this alone. We all need to work together to bring about change. We can't make things change unless we are angry and we have opinions and we go out and we share them. And so that's what I'm attempting to do. I think that's all for today. Think of something else, maybe I'll give you another video. But until then, see you next week.